to the Monday, June 6th meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission. The mayor will not be joining us. He had a prior commitment that he needed to fulfill. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the meeting to public participation.
Hey, Chris.
I don't see anyone for the public other than Chris Round from the Development Group who's going to speak to us about our stormwater and water source protection program.
Jump right in, sure. So, Chris Round from LaBelle Associates. I have slides in front of you. There's an extra copy to pass around, and just by way of background, and I'll try to keep it brief, and feel free to ask any questions.
You know what, Chris? Here, I'll share it.
Here's, thank you.
You have that?
Smaller version. So, the DEC and the DOH established a program about 2 years ago to assist communities in protecting their source water. You know, the source water could be surface water source, could be series of wells, springs, etc. And their goal was to hire or engage. They engaged 2 or 3 different consultants, and they took invitations from municipalities across the state, and they awarded small grants to each of the communities, and they assigned consultants. And so LaBelle is performing 12 or 13 of these across the state, you know, from Long Island to Niagara and, you know, up to Plattsburgh. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the program. So the idea is that they fund a consultant to work with a stakeholder group, identify, you know, some communities don't even understand what their drinking water source is, so it's understand their drinking water source, identify threats or risks to water quality. They come in all forms, and you guys are all pretty knowledgeable about this. And then develop some strategies, and that's basically going to bring you through that process. And ideally, the second phase is going to be actually fund some of the strategies that will help protect source water. So if you jump ahead to like slide 3, process overview. So they prescribe a real process, and then what they wrote basically a cookbook. And this process that we're undertaking is supposed to help refine that cookbook, and then they're going to share it with a broader set of communities so that communities themselves could undertake the process. And so, one, it starts with the establishment of, they use the word stakeholder group, but a steering committee that's going to drive the process. And then we talk about a drinking water source assessment and developing an understanding of the water source. I mentioned identification of implementation strategy, and then establishment of a management team. And some of this stuff may be redundant or very familiar to you. Where we are in the process is the city established last summer a steering committee. I'm on slide 4. That was the Mayor Hall at that time, and then now currently includes Mayor Collins, Bill Dorton, Don Colts from DCK, Mr. Green here, Kevin Kenyon, who's a representative of the DOH, and a new appointment was Ben Lapham from City Council. And so what we've done, if you flip ahead the process overview, we've had a series of meetings. We've had 3 or 4 meetings over the course of the last 6 or 8 months. And we have, where we are is we have some draft protection strategies that we're going to share with you. And again, I'm ahead to slide 6. Is what we did do is we defined the watershed. So you'll have these. There's a series of very robust GIS maps that the city will have to put on their website, and we looked at the watershed, the contributing area of the watershed that contributes area to the surface water reservoirs. We looked at land use. We identified a series of threats, and so we went through an inventory process where we looked at anything that could possibly impact water quality, from everything from looking at spills, New York State DEC spills database, looking at incompatible land uses. We mapped and met with various staff, and to get to this process, we typically start out with a vision statement, and I'm going to flash ahead to page 7. And this was crafted by the committee. Steve Gersler was front and center in the conversation, and I'm just reading the water resource and watershed that serve the long-term water supply needs of the city, providing safe and clean drinking water while managing the watershed in a sustainable fashion that preserves and enhances the natural resources for the future. I think one of the things that's unique about the city's watershed, the city holds and you guys protect a pretty large land area, and it's not just the drinking water source, but it's also a natural resource from habitat, forestry, from a variety of perspectives. And so the vision statement reflected that unique perspective. We then developed a series of goals, and you can see there's 7 of them on the next page, and these were developed in an iterative process. We had like a visioning session and a goal setting session. We refined these, and they were probably revised a couple times, and I won't read them all, but you know, there's some overlap, but one of the things that came up is that, and you guys deal with this, I think, on a regular basis, that a lot of people don't know of the resource and the importance of the resource. One of the things was, hey, public engagement and community awareness. We know you're often dealing with the threat or the illegal use or trespass on the property, and so that was a primary issue of concern. Invasive species, etc. And so if you flash forward again to threats and risks, those are kind of, there's a series of bullets that talk about that. So we mentioned invasive species, we mentioned residential land development in the area of the Halfway Brook Reservoir, and associated with that is nutrient loading from stormwater, fertilizers, residential septic systems. We mentioned some of those incompatible land uses, and then also was, hey, there's an infrastructure that goes along, not just the surface water body, but that infrastructure that might have been vandalized or might be out of date, and the protection of that and enhancement of that. And so we're telling you all this, trying to bring you up to, I apologize for my way of introduction, it's like, here's where we are in the process. And so we've gotten through this process with the steering committee, and we want to inform the Water and Sewer Commission before we go further, because as we move forward and address some of these threats and risks, that you'll be involved, right? And you'll have a role to play. And I think I got a duplicate slide on there, my apologies. The DOH and this Drinking Water Source Protection Plan, they have a framework, and we utilize that, and there's a series of tools, and there's a series of kind of prepackaged solutions. Some of those fit, some of those don't. What I have on slide 12 are kind of like the big picture threats or to water quality. Again, I got a couple of different. And on the left, we mentioned trespass, illegal dumping, vandalism, fire, and then water quality impacts associated with invasives or property loss. And then the right is, kind of the to-do steps. In order for us to understand all those challenges, there was a comment about, well, how frequent is trespass? How frequent is dumping? And how do we quantify and catalog that? And then are there techniques to help inform the city, whether that's advanced or remote monitoring, or watershed steward or regular inspection, public education of the community surrounding the watershed, and then there's this idea of exploring compatible recreation use. Those are all different techniques. These are not necessarily saying these are what we want to choose, but those are the options that are available to you. And as we move forward, we would test those, I guess, with the city and with the community. The next page, again, similarly, the threats on the left side of the slide, residential septic systems, we mentioned stormwater and the nutrients and pollutants that go along with that, and they result in water quality impacts, nutrient loading, or algal blooms. On the right side is like, hey, potential strategies. One is, hey, do we have an adequate water quality monitoring program that would detect the threat to water quality? Is there an adequate inspection and maintenance program of septic systems? You hear around the region the new focus on regular inspection of residential septic systems around Lake George, now we're entertaining around Glen Lake, and it makes sense to have that same type of program around the watershed, you know, those same risks, same threat to water quality. And then we mentioned again educational programs, and there's some of that work is being done, and then a lot of these things, it's unique again in that the watershed is within the town of Queensbury, and if we're to implement and inform and introduce protection strategies, we need to engage the town of Queensbury, and they're in the process of updating their comprehensive plan as we speak. They hired a consultant to do that, and then we want to push some of these things into the comprehensive plan. And so this kind of brings us up to where we are now is when you're undertaking a planning exercise and you involve, I mentioned as a planner, we distinguish between a steering committee and stakeholders. And the steering committee is really what we have right now. It's the city driving what the city wants to do with its watershed and its water protection strategies. Stakeholders are a broader set of individuals who might have a unique perspective or opinion about an issue or a series of issues. And in this case, one of those major stakeholders is the town of Queensbury, right? They have an opinion, they're affected by this. And so we, if the mayor was here, the mayor wanted to make sure we were speaking to this group before the steering committee engages with the town of Queensbury. There's been some conversations, I know the mayor at a really high level has talked to the supervisor from the town, but where we are is that when we next meet with the steering committee, we're going to talk about, well, what is it that we want Queensbury to do? How do we want them to do it? What's important? We mentioned one of the ideas is that the city's made it known that, hey, we have limited staff. We don't have capacity to inspect the watershed on a regular basis. We do it as frequently as we're capable of doing. Well, is there another means to enhance that inspection? And that might be funding from the town of Queensbury or a relationship with Queensbury or the establishment of what we call a steward or you do this with like land conservancies always do. It's land that they own, they need to inspect on a routine basis to make sure it's being used appropriately. We mentioned land use laws, education and outreach through the town. Perhaps the town establishes a septic inspection program, stormwater management. So I'm flipping to the last slide. Feel free to ask any questions, but our next step is we shared these threats, risks, and strategies with the steering committee, and they saw them for the first time just in our last meeting, and so they're digesting and formulating and modifying these as we speak. So it's to agree that on that, and then we need to do some broader public outreach. Typically the process says, hey, we have to talk to the public about this, let people know what's going on, get their input. Did we capture all the risks, all the threats that are out there? I heard from an individual just a couple weeks ago that one of the threats might be sedimentation of the watershed, and that's a different impact of stormwater runoff. And so then we would finalize this plan and develop an implementation schedule and develop a management team. I think largely the management team I would envision is in part the Water Sewer Commission or some subcommittee or some component of that. So that's what I had to talk about.
When you talk about when you talk about public, do you want to go and look at the people that use the watershed? Because I don't know how you identify them, but
that's a category of stakeholders, to your point, Peter. How to engage those folks when they're anonymous. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I think this committee here in itself needs to put some ideas together to to bring forth to the steering committee for discussion with the town. I think that's.
We can share, we have a series of notes that kind of do a better job of expanding what's been discussed, so that you could get the insight behind, you know, we summarize this stuff, but so that you might get the insight, we could certainly share that with you, if that would help.
You know, and public people have around the half a brick. We got to get in touch with them to not pollute the water. A lot of ways to pollute the water.
Yeah, I know, illegal dumping's been brought up. I know people like on Potter Road who might bring,
It's widespread.
right, or, you know, on any number of
Yeah.
number of locations.
And the runoff and fertilizer and stuff like that. Things of that nature.
There's ways to do that, you know, through a water bill or.
I think it's
you know.
got to be a joint effort between the town and the city. The city hasn't got the resources to go up there and police the thing. I think it's got to be done as a joint endeavor, so to speak.
And I think that's one of the areas that the mayor's moving forward with, and talking to Supervisor Stroh about, and, you know, all of the things that he envisions going forward with these trails and things like that. But there has to be policing and things like that. And Supervisor Stroh believes that, you know, by putting these trails in, you get more eyes on everything, so that people are seeing, so there is less dumping, whereas my thought process is just pushing them into different areas.
Yeah. Push it to the perimeter more.
Yeah, where, you know, out of sight, out of mind.
I don't know how to- wish I had an answer
Years
to
and
that.
years, that was the area, because nobody looked at it. Now they're looking at that, so they're finding some different areas, so.
It'd be a good idea to get Mike White involved in the steering committee, and he seems to have an awful lot of knowledge in the watershed and how it works and the sediment filling in over
We
these.
could certainly ask the mayor. The mayor brings Mike into a lot, and I think Chris alluded to the fact that, you know, sedimentation was a concern, and that was the one concern that Mike.
That's the first thing I struck on too, was
Mike
that's-
brought that
yeah.
up, and as you said, he's an avid kayaker and hiker, and he's through these facilities
He's
all the
got a lot of
time.
knowledge if
He's
you
got a
tap.
lot of knowledge. And, yeah, we can definitely bring the point up to the mayor, and that would be up to him.
Have to.
Did you set a date for the next meeting?
We've not, we missed.
How was that the last one?
Yeah, we missed the last Warrant Sewer Committee meeting, so I need to touch base here before we set the next one.
Okay.
But we'll give you at least a couple weeks' notice.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chris? Great. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Chris.
Nice to see everybody.
Moving on with the agenda, billing issues, I have none unless anybody else has heard of any. I've heard a lot of rumblings about complainings about assessments and things of that nature, but we've got some emails. But other than that, nothing formal in writing that I know that Mike Regan has come to me about, so. We've had some emails I've answered, some of those. One that the mayor directed to me for someone that lived a couple doors down from him. So. Any questions on the billing? All right, well, then we'll move ahead with the resolutions, and what we'll do is start with A for the approval of the minutes from the May 2nd and May 16th, 2022 meetings.
I got a couple of questions. On page 3,
That's the warrant, we're not there yet?
oh, I think,
That's the minutes.
No, we're doing the minutes first.
oh, sorry,
It's okay?
no questions on the minutes.
Okay, can I have
Motion approved.
a motion to approve?
Second?
Yep,
All in favor?
yes.
Okay, we'll move ahead to B, approval of the warrant. Peter, you're on.
Yeah, page 3, about halfway down, Amazon record keeping. What have it to do for record?
You know the books that when you come in and you sign,
Yeah.
that's where we get the books from. those are legal books that we
Yeah.
utilize, and
Oh,
that seems to be the easiest place to get them now. Go ahead, Chris.
Those are also the books that we use for documentation of what the operators are doing at the water plant and the sewer plant. They're numbered and they're bound, hard bound. So if somebody tears a page out, we know they did that.
yeah.
It's
For tracking.
a DEC requirement that we have a system like that set up. So we also use them in those spots too.
So they come from Amazon, huh?
Yeah, that was cheaper, it was $20 cheaper per book
Oh.
than our previous vendor.
Wow. Okay.
Just so you know, we, about over a year ago now, we've set up an account with Amazon because we're finding, we can find a lot of stuff on Amazon, especially for like, on the DPW side and field operations side, you know, we can find, old switches that we can't find in a local, hardware store for different things. And so we set up an account on Amazon and, we're starting to utilize it, which is saving the city some money. I mean, I do like using local vendors, but Amazon's got some benefits out there,
Yeah.
especially with some of the older trucks, parts we have, switches of all sorts. So
Yeah.
I'm not particularly sure what these books are, but I know you're going to see some other stuff through Amazon that you're going to say.
Yeah.
I just bought a motor for DPW side. I just bought a motor for a tractor. $2,100 is the cheapest price I could get anywhere locally, and 3-month lead time. They found one on Amazon brand new for $1,195, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's the exact match.
Okay.
Just a little FYI, that Amazon, you might see more and more Amazon
Yeah.
throughout.
Well, I think you have. I mean, there's a few more things here from Amazon that we've got. A couple of uninterrupted power supplies from there too.
Okay. On 12, page 12 and page 14, pressure washers, there's one of them listed twice, about Noble Ace Hardware pressure washers on $50.85, and that on page 15 it's listed again. So I don't know if if you want two of them or just one, but they're listed again for
So that,
$50.85 on page 12 and page 15. I don't know if it's misprint or what, so.
no, I believe the first one's actually, we purchased one because we were doing work out here on the secondary clarifiers. Both the cement walls of all the secondary clarifiers and aeration tanks, so we needed a pretty robust machine.
Okay.
And we seeded some hose extensions for the
Okay.
high pressure ones. So I think that's what you're seeing is, and I believe that the $50 is probably the hose. Chris, do you know off the top of your head, or?
Yeah, I think we went and go back and buy a second set of hoses. That was the $50. So we purchased the first pressure washer with the hoses, everything like that. And then when we looked at it, we needed an extension on the hoses to be able to reach out in some of the tanks and that. So we went and bought another set of extension hoses, which was $50. So it shows up twice,
Yeah,
but it was actually for the same item.
okay. Thank you, that's it.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, I get a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
All right, I think we have one more motion for the approval of the mowing contract. So everybody had a chance to take a look at it. This was a 2-year bid. This is the second year, so we have to prove it every year. So next year we'll have to go out to bid again. They've already mowed, and we do have the dams once already this year.
So we've been satisfied with the performance.
Yeah, no, they seem to have done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Also included in your package was the presentation of the annual water quality report. That's a requirement by DOH that we do an annual report on all of our numbers throughout the year of the way the water treatment plant operated. This year was a little different, obviously, with all of the construction and our ability to keep the facility up and running during that. It was a really good job done by the staff up there. Ricky Smith and his guys did a really good job. Everybody had a little hand in it. Tom helped out, and Jeremy, and whenever Chris, they needed something from us down here, they got it. But all in all, I think that was a good project for both us and Suez. Did a good job.
Did you hear any feedback from the community? It's been on the website for a few days, a week or so. Has anybody
About the flushing, or?
know about the report?
Oh, no.
Nothing?
Nothing yet. No, I thought it was nice enough to mention my name and email and phone number, so. No, I haven't.
I don't know if I'm not remembering, but this seemed a lot more, I don't know, to the people. Just reading through this myself, it seemed much less like a governmental required document blurting numbers, and more like a, hey, this is your city, your source, your, listing the different projects and things that have been accomplished recently. I thought it read very well, and
No, I reviewed this one, but I can't speak to the previous years. I didn't go back and look at those. I just worked on this with Don Colts, who basically authored it and asked for any recommendations and things like that. Other than that.
yeah, if you don't know what's going on or been recently going on, it's your own fault. I think after this, it's clear and it's to the point
And I
and
think
makes sense.
I mean, I think the water quality here is excellent, so.
Yeah. On the same line, I don't know if you did it, Chris, or somebody had some publicity in the paper about the recent renovation at the water treatment plant. Did you put it on Facebook?
Oh no, I think thank you, Sheila. I gave her admin access. She
Okay.
mentioned that, and I was like, yes, this makes total sense.
All right, yeah, she may have, yeah. We did,
she's
I know
doing
there's
that.
gonna be a press release that the mayor was just
Yeah.
penning.
Very well done. I
So,
remember you did it on Facebook.
He's going to be
Yeah,
putting
that's
something
great.
out shortly about both the water treatment plant work and the upcoming
Right.
clarifier work.
Yeah. So I think that'll help.
Yeah.
Actually, any questions are out
Anytime you
there.
can reach out, let everybody know what's going on. And obviously it says, the postcards went out. I guess years ago they used to send the whole report out, but that's quite expensive. So if anybody does need it, the postcard tells them how to go about securing that. How to come out and get a copy of it. Any other questions on D and the annual water quality report? Okay, we'll move ahead with under discussions, the Webster Avenue pump station. Last Wednesday, June 1st, we were out there. We took the pump station down. A lot of Tom's guys were there, and we just had to shut the road down. I don't know if, we had to shut the road down. You can see the guys working the station. We actually shut the station off. We plug it off so there's no flow going into the station, and we use the gallon pump directly into the force main. Here you can see this is the wet well where the two submersible pumps. See all the sand there on the bottom right side? That's probably came from when we were doing the water treatment plant. A lot of the works and flushing out the water treatment plant. So it was taking up some capacity within the pump station. Obviously, it's taking up some volume that water usually takes up. And what happens is it gets in the pumps and starts wearing. So we wanted to make sure we got that out. That's where that hose ties in. The valve on the bottom is the valve coming from the station, so we close that one, we open the other valve, and now that Godwin's pumping through the force main. That's how the water's getting here, through that force main. I think it pumps up to Bay, and then Sanford and and then that comes.
Splits.
That's where it splits and comes down and starts gravity again. Just to give you a value of the size, you have to shut down both sides of the road. You can see, take up the whole road. Bless you. And you can see these are the two pipes coming up from each pump with the valves, and then that's it manifolds together, and that's the other valve you saw on the bottom there. That's how the pumps come out of there. It's one of the pumps being taken out, rigged up, and laid on its side, and that's the volute with the impeller on the bottom, and you can see there's a little bit of a gap. And when you have that gap, what happens is the efficiency in the pump, it's circulating water rather than pushing out through the pump. So this is Sergey Ogada from Fleet. He came up and he was assisting us with the first pump. And you can see that little bit of wear around that bolt. That's a little wear. He said nothing really to worry about at this point. It's normal wear and tear. That's the pump taken apart with the volute and the impeller off of it. It's cleaning up some of the parts. And now you can see it's a little tighter when you put it back together. So that's the next one. So that was an all day. So about half a day. Sergey did the first pump. Our guys did the second pump, so they know what to do. So it was pretty informative for us, and we're doing the work on that and showed the guys. Sergey went through every aspect of the pumps with the guys.
What's the life expectancy on those now?
It all depends on how much wear and stuff. Those pumps were in good shape, he said. They weren't bad. We got plenty of wear still on the impeller. And you can replace, you see where those bolts, you can replace those facings. And the impellers themselves look like they were pretty good. So
there's really no need to buy a replacement?
No.
It's got to be super expensive.
Yeah, not as much as you would think, but not cheap.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to have a spare, so if the one does go down, you just plop one in, and you can go from there and you send the other
Never
one out.
repair the one that you
Yeah,
took out.
and that's, right now we have one out at Henry Street. It should be coming back shortly. It's another flight.
The manhole is part of a force main below?
That's actually the wet well. Those
Yeah.
are submersible pumps.
But in the street?
In the street, no, that's just, that's where all the flow comes in, like meets in that manhole and it comes into the station.
Okay.
So what we do is we put a ball in the pipe that comes into the station, and then that manhole acts as a wet well. And that Godwin pump just keeps the flow going into the
Oh,
force
I
main.
see, I got you, yeah. When does that do for paving? Webster Avenue, is that on the agenda?
Well, we've been holding off on it because there's a project that we're in about the third year of talking about it, so we're getting close.
That's right, that's kind of a pointed question, yeah.
So, and I apologize, I'm just gonna go over these pictures quickly. I know we talked about high voltage when they were up here, Gus and Lee, doing some stuff. When Gus was up here, he noticed that these were our banks of batteries, and what happens when we lose power. In order to go from one line to the other, to rack those breakers, you need a source of power, so that, because we're out of power, the batteries were acted as the backup. We noticed that these batteries, the internal lead linings were corroded, so they were no good. We weren't getting any power out of them. These were 20-year-old batteries, so they're put in back when the plant was new, so they're 30 years old. So he said we got plenty of wear and tear out of it. So this is, and the charger there up in the upper right corner had to be replaced too. That's the new system. That's 10 years they're guaranteed for those, and the new charger's up there too. So you can
And
see.
Gus developed that system?
I don't know if he developed it. I don't think he developed, but he had it all in stock, which was even better.
He's amazing.
And so there's the other thing. Yeah. So it took him. I pulled in one day. I said, "Oh no, what's wrong now?" And he had like 5 guys with him, and they started probably at 7:30, and they were done probably by 11. I came back and they were gone. I said, "Oh my God!" So we should be set there. Hopefully, all of that electrical stuff is good to go. Switch back and forth, and the batteries we should be good for at least 10 years.
Good project.
Did
They may
John
be,
start
they're,
on
they're,
that?
they're good for 10, maybe it's 15. What's that?
Did John start on that?
He did.
Okay.
Jeremy, you have anything with John Gold? Anything you want to add? He's just started up.
No, yeah, we're still finalizing the contract with them, so we expect to have probably kick off a meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Moving on to item B, the UV system. Chris, I, and Jason and Christian sat down with a couple different UV guys. We sent some information to Trojan, got some stuff back and forth. That's one of the big manufacturers in the UV systems. And then we brought in the UV system manufacturer that we have now. What's their name, Chris? It's eluding me. It's eluding me.
Yes.
So it'll pop into one of our
Glasgow?
heads. Yeah, Glasgow, yeah. And Trojan's like the Cadillac of UV systems, but in order for us to do that, we'd have to do so much retroactive construction on that chamber to make that fit. We decided to bring Glasgow back in and see what they could do. And they have new systems now, and we're contemplating on which way to go, but it does look like their system's now much more robust. The problem with the system that we have now was it was initially designed 30 years ago, 35 years ago. There's a lot of overheating, a lot of failure of ballast. We had to include air conditioning. Its flow control has been operable for, I think since before Chris was here. So in order for us to operate it, we're operating it under full power. So we're losing a lot of efficiencies. New systems with the new efficiencies would be, compared to this, would be very cost effective and probably the payback. I don't even know how quick it would be, but I'd have to, those are some things we're looking at. So I just wanted to keep everybody informed of how we're going to look at and go ahead with this. Item C, the phone system is our phone system here is aging out. We have some difficulties here. We have a lot of difficulties at the water treatment plant. Chris has been the lead on this, so I'm going to let him speak to it. He's looked at the phone systems and they've been in contact with that.
So our phone system, we had a couple phones go bad, so we brought in Northeast Information Services. They're still our phone people. They have a contract for 3 years. We're in the second year of that. One thing they mentioned to us is MyTel system that we have now is becoming obsolete after this year. So for a while we'll be able to get some phones, and then we'll be looking on eBay for parts. But if the server fails, we're down to we can replace the system, and that could be weeks. So what they recommended is something that I guess it was recommended 5 years ago citywide. It didn't happen. But now we're looking at it is putting it on a cloud-based system, so we don't have a server. So this would plug directly into our IP addresses that we have on our computers. We do not need a server on site. If the internet goes down, we would still be able to function. Because on the work cell phones that everybody has, management and our dispatcher Adam Kelly, we can put an app on there. The app acts as a connection from your desk phone into your cell phone. So we lost internet Wednesday last week for a couple hours. We could not take any emergency phone calls. We could not do anything. With this app, we would still be able to take all phone calls and operate normally on the phones. We would not be able to run internet, but at least we can take it, send somebody out there to look at these items. There's multiple things we can do with it. We can actually have internal Zoom meetings without using Zoom. We can keep track of phone calls on our computers if we want. With that app, I can bring the app up on my phone from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., shut the app back off. I do not have to have a work cell phone anymore for myself. I can get rid of that. We can also get rid of some of the phones we have in here that we don't use. I got 4 phones in this plant we don't use right now. There would be no reason to continue paying on these phones.
These cell phones?
No, these are actually landline phones. So I met with Sheen Westcott. We worked with him in the past. It's basically a wash for us to change over to this, since we still have money left over on our current contract. That would change over, and then we would pay monthly on the number of connections we have. This system's been used by the police department in other areas. What they like to do is spoof numbers. So instead of calling from Glens Falls PD to one of the commissioners, they can change the number so you know it's Glens Falls PD and you pick up. It's actually a pretty good system. With the way things are going, also the city is looking at updating it, their phone system. we would be interlinked. As of right now, if I wanna call Tom, I've gotta call him on a cell phone, or I've gotta call him on his work phone. If I wanna call the personnel department, I have to dial a 7-digit number. If the city continues going the way they're going, the whole place will be integrated, and we become where we just punch in a
Extension.
three or 4-digit extension, and we can talk that way.
I was gonna say, Chris, you might wanna communicate with the mayor and Chip, because there's a meeting this morning about this, why we have 10 different carriers.
I've been working
Yeah.
with Mike Regan on the side for why we have 10 different carriers. We started this before the mayor got onto it.
And Mike was part of that meeting this morning.
Mike's right up to date on this also, so everybody would be.
I missed it.
Yeah, everybody'd be linked in with this, Tom.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to give you a heads up that there is talk
Yeah.
in City Hall also.
Yeah, with Northeast, they've served us well in the past. It works well. This would have to go through the city, everything like that. We're not in desperate need right now, but we would like to start looking to move forward. Like I say, it's cost neutral, so we would be able to upgrade everything and move forward. It's literally turning the server off, putting new phones on our desk, programming the phone. It wouldn't be that much to do. We did include costs in your packet. We did include flyers for what phone system can do. I don't want to review the whole thing because it's about 70 pages. But if you do have any questions, you can reach out to me, and if I don't know, I will find out for you. But overall, it would work very well for us, for what we're doing here. Especially the redundancy of going down when we lose internet, as we do now, we'd still be able to receive those emergency phone calls.
How far out is the rest of the city?
Right now, DPW's contract is coming up. They don't have extensions. Tom can't transfer something to Carrie. City Hall, I was told, they're looking at the same thing. They're in a little better shape. I guess the firehouse had gone with something 5 years ago or something like that. And Transit did something on their own, and it just goes down. Everybody's got a different system, a different carrier. We are with the city on Nistel for our carrier, but we are not linked to the city. So we still have to call down. With this system, with the servers being removed, we would now be linked all the way around.
Every time we have a problem, we call one number and they give you this, and then you call StoreTech and they give you this, and then they call First Flight and they give you this, and then you call Verizon and they say, we haven't been there in 4 years. It's like, my phone in my field operations office hasn't worked since Christmas.
Yeah, and we would be able to sit down. We looked at Tom's system. He has high-speed internet. They just want to double check it. But if everything's good, they would just plug a phone in off the internet to his computer. He's done. That's it. And then he's got to bring the system up.
Be nice to have
And
the
it
whole-
can be staged out, stages through the city. It doesn't have to be everybody at the same time, which is a nice little feature on that. But we kind of came up with the idea as we were talking with the phone people a couple of weeks ago. This would work for us with what we do here. Water plant, same thing. They would get the same setup as we have. And they would not have to VPN their phones down here to this server. Everything would be on the cloud up there. So if they lose internet up there, it's okay, everything comes down here anyways. We ain't gonna worry about that. If the VPN goes down now, they lose all their phones. One problem we just found was an updated firewall. I updated the firewall here last year. It was not updated at the water plant. So when StoreTech did an adjustment to the firewall, it crashed the firewall at the water plant for 4 days. And they couldn't get internet or phones. Took some time, we got that back up. We are going to correct that issue also. But we're just modernizing and bringing everything up to speed.
Be nice to have everybody on the same page for once.
We're trying to keep up with what's going on right now. And we're trying to head off like we did with the server purchase and the computers before Windows 10, before Windows 7 went obsolete. We're trying to stay ahead of that curve before we get bit.
Last item on the discussion that I didn't put down was flushing. Tom has started the flushing program today. You sent me some picture of.
I did bring a picture, I don't know if you.
Yeah. one hydrant looked like,
Just
the-
one
looked like the
hydrant.
Mississippi coming out.
I said, I don't know if we wanna share that with our paying,
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. That's what's laying in the bottom of our pipes, unfortunately.
Reason for flushing.
That's why we have to flush.
First year I ever did, I got one in my office, and it looks like made of soup, Campbell's soup. That's close, but not as bad as the one I have. But then, back then, I don't think we were flushing twice a year, I think it was hit or miss.
Yeah, it was, the fire department did part of it.
Yeah, actually, you guys did do a bunch more.
Mhm. So if you go around the town and you see any trucks parked, they are doing something. If you
Ray
see the
said-
water gushing out of them, it's
Ray
not
was saying
guessing.
at Cronin the other day, you guys are flushing someplace on Maple Street, maybe?
There was a fire on Maple Street.
No, but he was, were you flushing last week? Cause they had a real water problem over at Cronin, the pumps wouldn't, they weren't supplied enough to keep the pumps
Yeah,
going.
I'll give Dylan a call with that a little bit. We got something going on with that Maple Ridge intersection back when we did the Ridge Street project, and even when we turned up the valves off or something, we try to get back on it every so often to find it. We never had a problem with Stitchman's when we flushed, and now all of a sudden we're getting, his
Cronin-
son-in-law works there, as manager, maintenance, and he'll call me and it goes down fast, so I
Yeah,
don't
'cause
know.
see, that's what he's saying, so we never had a problem before that project.
Before that Ridge Street project.
But the pumps kick in, if there's not enough water, they shut down, then they try to kick back in again because the pressure drops and the people upstairs start calling it. And, it's just a circle.
One more thing, just quick, I don't know, Jeremy, did you know that they put the bridge work on up at,
Yeah, I'd gotten some photos, I think, Friday evening, from Dennis at Bosse's.
Yeah.
They made some substantial progress. I don't know if they
Yeah.
were back today or.
I don't know, looked like it was about 85% complete, so
Yeah.
hopefully, I had a picture one of the water operators sent me, but it's on the phone and I couldn't get it to Chris. It was an actual picture and we couldn't print it out and anything about it, so I'll have pictures, hopefully the next time it'll be completed, so. Looked good. With that, any questions on any of those discussion items?
Are you going ahead with the northeast, what is that?
The phone system?
Yeah.
We're still investigating that, we're gonna get.
If you want, I can bring Dean Westcott in at the workshop, explain everything out to you guys.
And then probably at our next regular meeting, we'll probably look for some sort of.
I was wondering if this is the only company that does that, or?
No, multiple companies do that. We've worked very well with Northeast.
Oh, okay.
One reason, we like staying with, we want to stay with Northeast if we can.
Okay.
We've done a very good job working with them. I hardly ever call them. We called them last year once for a bad phone. Called this year, he came in, fixed 3 phones. If I call him, I get a quick response. And also, because we have money remaining in the account, that's what makes it a neutral investment.
Okay.
If we go with somebody else, which, I mean, we can get quotes from other people and see where that ends up, that's not a problem.
Oh, I didn't know you were working with them.
Yeah, but it's something that came up 3 weeks ago when we had an issue with a camera failure here, and then we brought the phone failure. There was actually Jeremy's phone that failed, and that's when he started talking to me about it. And we looked at the system and realized how old it was. That's where concern came, and then I asked Dean Westcott for some numbers, and it came up to be a small savings for us for today's dollars, and no cost out of our pocket.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
good.
sounded pretty good
Yeah,
right
it
off
is.
the bat.
Yeah, yeah.
Going forward.
Okay.
Like I said, we've contracted with them for the cameras and the phone system for 3 years, and it's been working very well.
Okay. Thanks.
This
Okay.
doesn't change or jeopardize or tweak the SCADA get
No,
into the security.
SCADA is not hooked to anything that can be accessed from the outside. Our SCADA is totally separate from the system. We don't mess with the SCADA system that way. Nobody can get into SCADA.
Any other questions on those discussion items? Moving on to number 5, personnel. Just a couple couple quick things on that. We have 3 new hires. Tom has one on the field operating crew. We have one here, and there's one pending up at the water treatment plant. So we've been able to fill a couple positions. I don't know, David, if you had anything for executive session?
I don't.
Okay, so then we'll wait for the mayor to come back for executive session if he has anything, or with that, we'll look at the next proposed meeting dates. The water sewer workshop will be on Monday, June 20th, 2 p.m. here. And then the next regular water and sewer board will be Tuesday, July 5th, because Monday's the 4th.
Boy, coming quickly.
With that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes,
Yes.
good.
Is that what you? Folks?
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe.
Yes.